vocation, and then move on. Come on, please go ahead with the reading.
Examples of equivocation. Number one, noisy children are a real headache. 2 aspirin will make a headache go away. Therefore, 2 aspirin will make noisy children go away. Number 2, employer to job applicants. We are looking for a responsible person for this post. Applicants, I think I am the one you are looking for because in my previous job, every time anything went wrong, they say I am responsible. Number 3, mad people must be institutionalized. Zainab is madly in love with Abu, so she must be institutionalized.
Very good. Now, if you recall our discussion last week, these are all applying different connotations of the word that is highlighted. It's not an error to apply different meanings of one word. But when you do so, yet suggest by the way you are reasoning that you haven't shifted from one of the meanings to another. When you do it, you shift, but you don't make it look so. So look at the first instance, all this we did last 2 weeks, because we were not in last week because of the holiday. I want to recap a little to show you biases in the use of language. We've seen equivocation, we've seen ambiguity, we saw vagueness. So I'm just helping you recall equivocation. Okay? Noisy children are a real headache. Then you say 2 aspirins will make a headache go away. The sense of headache that we have used earlier and the recent one that we just used don't coincide. There are different connotations, different senses of the word headache. Yet, look at how I conclude, therefore, 2 aspirins will make noisy children go away. That is when we say the person is conflicting, the person is conflicting, oscillating from one of the uses of the word to another, making it look as if both uses, both senses of the word refer to the same thing. That is what equivocation is, and that is what is happening in the second instance and the third as well. So please read vagueness. There we are good to go. Samuel, please read the vagueness, and we are good to go.
Number 3, diagnosing vagueness. A word is vague when its intended meaning is indeterminate or unclear. Examples, the provost said he will be here any moment from now. Any graduate who is not finding a job is not looking hard enough.
Look at the 2 very well. Do you see the vagueness? Behold, I will return very soon. That's vague. Intentionally so, of course. Because we believe God knows the end from the beginning. So he knows when he will come, if he will come, and he will. Okay. But intentionally vague for a reason. So we saw that sometimes expressions are intentionally vague. Expressions like proverbs, metaphors, what have you. On my screen now, look, are intent. That is their purpose. They are intentionally open-ended. They don't need to be direct. If you are using an expression proverbially, idiomatically, then you have to present it in an intentionally open-ended manner. That is its quality. It is meant to be big, metaphorical language. The Lord is my shepherd. That is metaphor. So if the Lord is my shepherd, if no man is an island, if life is war, look at life is war. Did we say go for guns? No. There's something about life that is being related to being a war. So the beauty or the value of the language, this one, proverbs, idiomatic expressions, figurative expressions, whatever, their beauty is in their intentionally open-ended manner. Okay. And I think we did a lot of that last 2 weeks when we talked about my wife is a pig. And the next will go gossiping and all that. Remember that. So there is a sense in which we can intentionally use what? Language vaguely, which will be appreciated for that. Proverbs are meant to be vague. Okay, that's their value. So you can't interpret, you can't make them direct. If you do it, then it's no longer a proverb, no longer a metaphor. Our father is a lion, the lion of the tribe of Judah. See? Yet is the lamb that was slain. These are all what symbolic use of language. That one,
Yes,
that kind of vagueness, is valuable. I want you to take note. Valuable means it is fine. Elvis, please keep your microphone muted. I can hear you. Elvis, please keep your microphone muted. Elvis Owusu.
Hello.
However, if you are listening to me, you would realize that when you intend, yes, please.
Can you hear me? Yeah,
Elvis, what is the issue?
my microphone, my speaker wasn't working. Hello, can you hear
Elvis,
me?
you need help. Elvis, you need help. Elvis, do you need help? Elvis Owusu. You need help with something, Elvis.
Hello. Hello.
Answer my question, Elvis. You need help with something?
Hello, what? Do I need, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, the meaning of the weakness, like.
Can I continue with my lecture, Elvis?
Is that why is that? Hello, please, I want to ask a question. Can you hear me? Hello.
Elvis, ask a question. Can someone prompt him?
Yeah, I was saying, please come. I was saying, come again with the meaning of the weakness.
You should come again with which meaning, say? Were you here last week, Elvis? Last 2 weeks, I mean.
What, madam, please come again.
Elvis, were you
why
with us last
the
week?
sentences are vague?
Were you with us last week? Answer that question. So
There
help
was
me. Last week you were with us, right? This is just a recap. So I'm trying to show you that it's not a new content so that you'll be at peace and engage the rest.
okay. My network.
All right, so we want to continue now. I was just explaining to you that we have a use for vagueness when we are using expressions like proverbs, metaphors, idiomatic expressions. When we use language proverbially, we don't intend that it should be objectively understood. No, it is intended to have different interpretations. Proverbs, that's how it's supposed to be. Value judgment, better still. Idiomatic expression, when we say he has kicked the bucket. When we use metaphor, she's the what? We are the apple of God's eye. It's a metaphorical statement. Phantom. Apple. We are the apple. My daughter is an angel. This is a father telling a son-in-law to be, look, as for this, my daughter, she's an angel. Handle with care. The daddy doesn't mean the lady has feathers or wings, better still wings, that she flies. No, he's speaking symbolically in the beauty and the value of that language. That expression is in its vagueness. The fact that you can't directly pinpoint the specific thing that it is referencing is what makes it useful. So I was just prompting that in certain quarters, vagueness is valuable, but not when, there we come to the one that your friend read from, not when you want to have objective understanding, when you want people to understand you without any confusion. Okay, so we say this negative use of the expression vague, where you intend to have a determinate meaning, but how you are speaking doesn't allow your audience or those listening to you to know exactly what you mean because of how you spoke. The thing can mean several things to several people. Okay, It is not like ambiguity where it points to one or two or maybe sometimes 3 or 4 meanings, and we don't know which of the specific meanings apply. The specificity, just that it points to more than one. That's ambiguity. Unlike equivocation, where you are swinging from one of the meanings to the other, and yet you make it look as if it's just one meaning you are using all this while. That's equivocation. It's so clear in terms of specificity, specifies. The only thing is that it doesn't specify to an exactly one thing. It moves from one of the meanings to the other. That's equivocation. As for vagueness, it's not specific at all. There is 1,001 things that will apply from the way you spoke. When we said democracy is freedom for all, I told you that that is extremely vague. Freedom of what? Which sense of freedom do you mean? Freedom as in liberty, or freedom as in ability to do, or freedom as in restriction, yet free. So there's a certain number of interpretations you can give to freedom alone. There is a freedom for all what? Non-citizens too, feeling free to move about, including walking around at the exam hall when the instructor has said start work. That's also freedom. But there's restriction at the exam hall, and yet it is not in any way meaning that you are not a free being, you are not a free Ghanaian. A free Ghanaian, but not allowed to go taking pictures at the American embassy in Ghana. What is a freedom for all what? Think about it. People who don't have nationality and yet want to vote should feel free to come and vote in our country. Prisoners should feel free to ask for permission to, no permission, to feel free to decide where they want to sleep at what time. You see? So what is a freedom for? It's so vague, extremely general that it doesn't specify. That's big. And your friend just read one. And 2 examples. The provost said will be here any moment from now. And I told you last week, if someone tells you any moment from now, and you accept it, say you are going out with a guy, ladies, and then you want to know when are we going to formalize this relationship so that we have some kind of respect. The guy says, oh, any moment from now or soon. He tells you soon. That includes 30 years from today. It's too soon. When will you switch on the light so that we start? Oh, soon. Soon? You can't take that, especially in places that matter. I mean, if you're having a party and someone said soon, you know that soon could be within this time. But not a relationship that has not been formalized. The person is still sucking the juice freely. You have to know, I'm speaking figuratively now. Okay? You have to know that soon cannot help. When should we come for our passport so that we can prepare for the travel? Oh, soon. Soon meaning what? You have to ask for clarity. So we went through all that. Any moment from now is like, any moment from now, as I'm speaking with you, includes 1,000 years from today. It's still a moment from now. Out of any moment. Any. A person who is not finding a job is not looking hard enough. Really? What does it mean to look hard enough? Okay. So you have to ask for specificity, determination. Let it be determinate. Otherwise, it is so open, so general, can refer to anything at any time in that supposed set. That's what makes it clear. If there's no question, then we can do verbal dispute and substantive disagreement after we have introduced ourselves to the types of discourse. So we know the types of contentions that may arise in a discourse. Okay. Can I have another reader? Thank you, sir. Another reader, quickly, please. Raise your hand. Thank you. Let me take Irene. Irene's hand shut up. Where is it? Is it gone? After Irene, Pamela can be on standby. Then Christiana, Felicity can follow. So let's take Irene afterwards, Pamela. Irene, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Types of discourse. Your text identifies 4 types of discourse. That is a collection of expressions, not a single expression, as we have seen so far. Passages, argument, narration, instruction, and rhetorical polemic. Narrative. A discourse which only reports a sequence of events in order of their occurrence. Refer to examples in the text. Instruction. A discourse which describes the process or sequence of things to do in a specified order to accomplish some desired effect. Rhetorical polemic. A passage that communicates usually strong feelings or persuasively vents an opinion. 4. Argument. A passage that contains a single conclusion that is presented as a logical consequence of reasons, that is, the premises or evidence of it. Thus, hence, therefore, so indicates conclusion. Since, if given that, provided, indicates premises, that is, reasons or evidence.
Well done. Irene, you read very well. Keep it up. So,
Yes, ma'am.
just like the earlier person, forgive me, I didn't remember to say that. So, what Irene read, and you see that I shifted the person, I changed the one reading, because all those things help you to remember. They are just pointers to make your memory have less work to do. Okay, so you know that the first person read Samuel Sowa, that was to help us recap equivocation. Madam spoke a little bit more about vagueness and then topped the topic a little. Elvis even wanted some clarification. Then we got to know it's just a recapping we are doing. Then there was a further emphasis. And then Irene took over and read the next topic. That way, see, so your mind is capturing everything in smaller chunks so that there's less work for you to do. And so if you remember anything at all, remember the name Irene and the topic types of discourse and how she mentioned that here we are not dealing with just single expressions like we did in the past when we saw declarative, interrogative, commands or imperatives, if you recall. They were all one expression. Stand up, sit down. Where is your mother? Today is a holiday. These are different types of linguistic expressions, either imperative, interrogative, declarative, sentence fragment, emotive expressions. We studied that. And then we went to the types of declaratives and we saw what were they? The factual statement, value judgment, and definitions. Okay, so that is how we have worked so far. Here, what we are doing now are not types of linguistic expressions. They are what? Types of discourse, passages, a collection of what? Expressions. So when we put them together to create a passage, we may have a narrative telling a story, telling how something happened. That's what I mean to that right. Or we may have an instruction telling us how to do it. So the passage will be instructing. Because why do we call it instruction? It's telling you how to get it done. A narrative tells you how it happened in the order in which it happened. Past tense. Instruction tells you how it should be done, or can be done, or must be done. Simple. It's a passage, a discourse, but their intentions are different. Then we saw rhetorical polemic or polemical rhetoric, the senior brother for emotive expression. So it's emotive expression really, but captured in a passage form. Don't know why. I don't know why I attended that party. Or to punish the organizers. What at all was I even doing there? What I've just said, it's a passage, it's 3 in 1, right? It is not stating anything. It's not a statement. Remember, a statement has a truth. It's a linguistic expression that has a truth. I don't even, why did I even attend that party? God will punish those organizers. God will punish. I don't even know why I attended. Who at all made us vote for this government? It's just things like that. You are not stating. It's emotive, but it's a strongly presented emotion in a passage form, so to speak. Africa must unite. This nonsense must stop. Is anybody going to sit there for this going to will not sit and let this happen? Break or to wait. These are all emotive. Why? We can't diagnose them to be either true or false. So when a critical thinker tells you, set aside the emotions and state factual statement so that we can all engage it. It doesn't mean the emotions don't exist too, but after the emotions, when they go, doctor, how have you done this to me? There's all those ones you have to understand. They are people's strong feelings captured into words. There's a place for it. Don't let it get at you. After all that I did for these people, as a woman, it's just the child that didn't survive. Look at how she was behaving at the place. Oh, you are taking that one serious, my lady, my brother. Chill. It's emotion. And there's a place for that. Just listen and then don't worry. Oh, we did our best. You say, oh, doctor, if you don't resurrect my son, and don't worry. Don't let it get at you at all. People have to express them. But beyond all that is the next one. The narrative gone, the instruction gone, the rhetorical polemic or polemical rhetoric is just the one I call senior brother to emotive expression. And then comes the fourth one, which I really read through, and I've left that on the screen for a while. Argument. So an argument is also a discourse. A passage, it's a collection, it's not one. That's why you can't say an argument is true or false. No, true or false is the quality of what? Statements. Statements have truth value. Argument is made up of several statements, at least two. It can never be one statement and then you call it an argument. That is why you can't describe an argument as either true or false. And I think slowly but steadily, people are getting it. When I tell you this argument is true or false, already the question is sick. Okay? Arguments are either valid or invalid, sound or unsound, cogent, stuff like that. Strong or weak. You can describe an argument as strong. When it is in that, we are getting this slowly. So you can't say that it is true or false. What can you describe as true or false? Statement. We learned that. The surname for statement is declarative. It's also called assertion. It's also called proposition, and so on and so forth. We have done all of those, so I don't want us to spend too much time recapping that. Very good. So what then is an argument? If instruction tells you how something is to be done, a narrative tells you how it was done. And rhetorical polemic or polemical rhetoric only captures the strong feelings of the speaker, emotive expression, so to speak, in a passive form. Then what is argument? Irene says, when we have an argument, it's a collection of statements. Statements. That's what I said. What have they done? Which is trying to show you why a certain view must be accepted or rejected. Finished. So within the argument, there is an attempt to show you why you should accept or reject a claim. That is what an argument is. A passage that contains a single conclusion, which is presented, that conclusion is presented as the consequence, logical. Okay? The consequence, what comes out? The consequence of what? Certain reasons of it. So there are reasons being given to support the claim that you are saying something, you are giving us reasons why. See how I took my time? I want it to sink in. I'm giving reasons why you should accept that claim. On my screen now, quickly. I say something, then I give you grounds as to why you should accept what I said. That is an argument. It is not necessarily what you would mean out there. An argument can connote something else for some people. That's what is on the screen. See the man and the woman. So sometimes you'll be saying you like argument too much. And for you, that means person likes exchanges, look on his aggressive language or demeanor, an attempt to shout down or intimidate an opponent. That will mean argument in one sense of it. Remember responsible equivocation. Remember, what's the other one? Mad in equivocation. Someone just read it. So the fact that you heard mad doesn't mean when you hear madly in love, but the word is mad in both instances, they are referring to the same thing. No. Just as when you heard headache for children, when we say children are headache, our example, I'm just referencing examples we used earlier. That headache doesn't mean headache as in pain that you physically, physiologically feel in your head, which takes paracetamol. If you drink paracetamol, children won't disappear with too. They won't disappear. But perhaps if you take paracetamol, the pain in the head may. So they are both headaches. Children are headaches, but not children, noisy children, really. You can't beat them. They are children. You can't beat them. So sometimes it's difficult to manage what children who are noisy, making noise out there. If it's adults, you use the whip, or you can speak some things into at them, and they will stop and go and find something. That woman they makes us feel that what kind of rebuke is that? They will have conscience. Children don't have any conscience. Hey, children, if you don't stop, hey, mommy. That's what they will do. They will feel headache. The word was headache. Does it mean pain in the head? No. So what? So the word argument on your screen, please. Understanding the technical meaning of argument. Argument technically is not winning at all costs, not aggressive language. That can be so for some uses of the word argument. This is what it means. And I would like Irene to read what is on the screen. I've said all that just to cement it. Please go ahead, Mary.
What is an argument? Sorry. An argument between making a claim and giving reasons why that claim should be accepted. An argument is a set of statements, only one of which is the conclusion or claim, which one attempts to support, justify, or prove with reasons or evidence. Every argument has two parts.
Irene, I think you have a feedback from your place. Check it. Are you using a headphone?
No, please. It's my roommate. I've told her to.
No. One of you should. Yes, I think one of you should get your thing off. Don't worry. You should use one.
Yes, ma'am. Every argument has two parts. Conclusion, that is the claim being made. Premise or premises, the reasons or evidence intended to support the claim. Trial. It is important that UJ University of Ghana actively encourages older people to remain within the workforce. Older people often have rare skills and useful attitudes that are wasted when they leave the workforce early. Moreover, staying on longer in full-time or part-time work is believed to be good for the health. Besides, it is unrealistic to expect savings and pensions to be sufficient to meet the needs of people retired for 40 years or more.
Okay, please tell me what the conclusion is. Raise your hand if you want to try, please. I want more hands. I see Felicity's hand already. Tell me the conclusion. Look at it. If you don't do it quickly, I'll open an assignment for you right now. You go to your emails and go and send it. Look at it closely. I'm giving you 2 minutes. Look at it and tell me what the conclusion. See that there is no indicator there. There is no conclusion indicator. There is no premise indicator. No word. There is no dash, hence, as a result. None of it there. But you should be able to see what the person really wants to say. This is the conclusion. There will only be one thing that a person is ultimately saying. Then the rest are the reasons he or she is giving to support what he or she is saying. Okay? When you have that, then you have an argument. Not just a narration, storytelling, or an instruction, or a rhetorical polemic, but something is being said and grounds, evidence, reasons, premises, that's technical. Premises are being offered to support what is being said, the conclusion. Okay. So whenever there's an argument, there's a conclusion and premise. I'm waiting for more hands to go. What is the conclusion on the trial question on your screen? I see only 3 hands. I see Elwin, Emmanuel Tevia, Elvis Owushu, Oseko, all joining Felicity Dede now. One more hands. Look at it closely. No rush. Look at it. Six hands. I just saw. Oh, where's the rest of the class? Please look at it. I want a few more hands. Okay, so I'm sure that people are following. I just saw Soa's hand. Look at it very closely. Sister read it right now. Important that UG actively, UG is University of Ghana, encourages older people to remain blah, 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 blah. What's the conclusion? Okay. Still 7. Abina, look at it all. Abina and Amina, Antoinette, Christiana, Precious, Catherine, Charles Lynn, Christabel, Chrislab, Amma, Ephraim, Sakite. I'm mentioning all of your names. I can see you there. Okay, look at it close. Very good. There are 9 hands up now. Very good. Flossie, look at it. Irene, look at it. Oh, Jeremy, you are back. Good. Orisha. Okay, peace. Michelle, everyone look at it. I want more hands. Because I can examine you around this. When is the person arguing? When is the person just stating, narrating, telling you stories about how the thing happened? Okay? A critical mind must detect that at the spur of the moment. You don't need too much time to do that. So look at it a little bit more now that you are training yourself. All right, let's take someone. Maybe it will help the others see it. Very good. So I want to take Asekufo. Help us. Thank you all.
Hello, madam. Can you hear me? All right.
I can hear you say. Go ahead.
Okay, so I think the claim is that UG actively encourages older people to remain within the workforce, and the premises are the statements that come after. So from older people to decide.
Well done. That's very correct. How did you see that?
So
Yeah.
okay, so the when you read the full passage, you would realize that there's one statement that the other statements are backing, and then when you take a look at
Well done. That's very smart. Don't say more. I think you convinced me. It's very correct. Well done. Your friend says you will see that there's actually one thing, one statement that the others are backing. There's a lead vocalist. The others are backing. So the person speaking really wants to say that's the conclusion of the matter. Those who like Bible edits or scripture, at least the Christian Bible I know says the end of the matter is love God, obey His command. That's the conclusion. The whole Bible, that's what it's saying. Love God, obey His command. We need to. When the politician comes perhaps and says, vote for me, Nigerian folks, we just did your election. Timiku, Atiku, Obi, Peter Obi, they're going left, right. People are campaigning, going at the end of the campaign message, everything. Oh, the government should have done this, and this person shouldn't have done this, and this, all the conclusion, vote for me. Finish. That's the conclusion. That's all the person wants to say, vote for me. Now, all the person wants to say. Okay, so all the rest that they add, what reasons why you should vote for me? Vote for me because I've done this, I made Lagos. I did this, I did this. Another person says, vote for me rather because meanwhile, if I come, I will do this and that, I'll do this and that. The one who is sitting on say, vote for me because I have done this. The other one say, if I come, I will not do this. And I would rather do this than that. The conclusion, vote for me. If it is, what else can I use? Political parties asking you to join them is the same. If it is evangelism, that the person has gone and is projecting what they have, it is ultimately what I'm presenting. And that is the whole thing. So you have to learn. I mean, if the president presents the State of the Nation's address, if the doctor tells you all the stories, so what's the conclusion? So it doesn't look like, from the research available to us, doesn't look like something that empirically speaking, we are able to help him now. That's the conclusion. You know, when I saw the promo schools of the this, of the that, the position of the heart and the this, and the person will talk, the conclusion is what? The child can do well. If we visited a more technologically advanced hospital, let's take him to Canada. That's the conclusion, Kasa. So you have to learn how to finish the matter. Then you build the grounds for why you are saying so. Okay. And there are two ways of doing that. So we are going to learn deduction and induction. But we'll do it slowly. I don't want to rush you at all. We are not really there to learn deductive logic for something yeah, it's not anything strange. You need it to help to aid your work for the discipline you are in. So we will not rush too much to know the very detailed. It is not really necessary. We're going to do law or something where the application of it will be essentially needed. I'm talking about this particular logical valid pattern, those ones. You don't need to know all. You just need to, because they're already what? Intuitive. That's how we think. So you don't need to be worried with any necessarily calculus, mathematics, and deduction, deductive logic extensively. But the basic ones that will aid your work, I want you to be minded. We're going to do that. Inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning. A little bit of the deductive reasoning, and then we'll move quickly to inductive reasoning, which is really useful for you. Okay, but you have to have some data because they are the forms, the patterns that will structure how you are thinking. You have to immediately know what the person really wants to say. Then the reasons for what he or she is saying. When the two are put together, you have an argument. So what you have on your screen now, even though we don't see, like Irene read earlier, look on my screen, we don't see, oh dear, where is it here? We don't see thus, hence, therefore, so, which are indicator words that point to the conclusion. We didn't see any of them. Neither did we see since so and so and so and so, if so and so and so, given that so and so and so, provided that these terms, since, if, given that, provided, are indicator words. They are words that indicate what? Premises. They are indicator words for premises, evidence, reasons. Okay, whilst the thus, hence, and so on are words that point to the conclusion. And we said every argument has two parts. Only one conclusion, single conclusion all the time. The rest are the premises or the evidence or the reasons that you are giving, you are proffering that to support the conclusion drawn. Okay, so the whole State of the Nation's address, maybe 5 hours or 6 hours, will have only one conclusion. The whole preaching, the message that was will have only one conclusion. What is it saying ultimately? That's the conclusion. Then the reasons why it is saying that will be the several premises that are offered. And I'm saying that in this example, the trial question, you see that there wasn't any term saying thus, hence, as a result, consequently, therefore, so. They are not there to help you see that this is the single conclusion. So that when you take it out, you can fish out the rest as premises. There isn't. Well, maybe there would have been because, if, since, to help you see the premises. No, there wasn't any. Yet, see how your friend, and I think most of you, not most, quite a number of you saw that it's an argument. You could even tell premises. So on that note, we are ready to introduce ourselves to two ways of argument, two types of argument. Please take note, when we are trading now, it's logic. You are not impossible. It's not impossible for you to do it. I don't joke with it. We have moved from the language zone when we're doing declarative, imperative, or whatever, equivocation, no. Here, we are touching on what? We are wondering on a little bit more engaging grounds. But it's not difficult. Just that you should have a good posture. Not get stressed. Look at two ways of arguing. Two ways of presenting premises as evidence to support claims as conclusion. So you can support your claim, your conclusion in two different ways. One of the ways we call it what? Deductive. Write it down if you're making it. To deduce, D for Daniel. Deduce. Okay, so deduction. Take it from. So you can argue deductively, or can argue inductively. Two ways. Now I read the two examples on my screen. I want who was reading both for me? I've forgotten again. Okay, Elvis will do as the honest now. Thank you, Irene. Elvis, go ahead. No, who was reading? I said Pamela should be on standby, right? Pamela, forgive me and let Elvis read. I'll come back to you. Apologies. Elvis,
Okay,
go ahead.
madam.
Yo, thank you.
Okay. Hello. Can you
Hello, Elvis. Go ahead.
hear me? Can you hear me? Examples of arguments. 1. All students write exams. I as a student, so she writes exams. 2.
Very good.
Most Ghanaians are hospitable. My mother is a Ghanaian, therefore she is hospitable.
Thank you so much.
Note that,
Don't
note
worry
that
with the notes.
sometimes,
Okay, you read it. Read it, Elvis. Go ahead.
note that sometimes, if the premises are true, it becomes necessary to accept the conclusion is also true.
Also, well done. Thank you so much. That was also well read. Now watch. Elvis just
Yeah.
told you say that sometimes when he argues, Elvis argues. He argues is that we have explained what argument is when he presents evidence to support claims that he makes. Sometimes it is said that when you accept the premises he offered, the premises means the evidence, the reasons. I won't change the word again. So when I say premises, don't get worked up. It's the same thing. The evidence you proffer, you give to support a claim, a conclusion you are drawing. Okay. So when you give evidence, premises to support a conclusion, then we say you are arguing. And I'm saying that Elvis says sometimes, as soon as he gives you the evidence, which is the premises, and you accept it to be true, as soon as you accept the premises to be true, it means automatically and necessarily that you have also accepted the conclusion he added. Any argument that has that nature, where as soon as its premises are taken to be true, it will mean that the conclusion must also be true. That argument is called a deduction. Deduction because the conclusion is taken from the premises. So if you take the premises as true and carry it into your room, the conclusion already comes with you into the room because the conclusion is inside the premises. So if you say the premises are true, it will mean that the conclusion is also true. When you take the full orange fruit into your room, you have already taken the seed inside it along. When you collect the envelope, I'm giving you some 100,000 Ghana cedis. Then I put it in an envelope. The conclusion is the money. The envelope is the premise. If you collect the envelope from my hand, you have already gone home with the money. Don't say, Amy, I didn't take any money. It be the envelope where I take. Who told you? Inside the envelope is the money. That's the nature of a deductive argument. Its conclusion is already inside the premises. I like the example with the pregnant woman. The baby in the tummy, the womb of the woman, I should say, that baby is the conclusion. The mother is the premise for a deductive argument that is valid. Let's take it slowly. Okay, there can be a deductive argument that is not valid. But here we are describing a valid deduction. I'm just explaining how Elvis will present his argument to you. There can be two ways of giving you reasons to support his claims that he's making. In one of the instances, which we call deduction, as soon as you accept his evidence, his premises as true, it will mean that you have already accepted the conclusion to as true. You can't say that, oh, I accept your premises as true, but your conclusion, I don't like it is false. No, that would be a contradiction. As soon as you accept the premises, it will demand of you necessarily to accept the conclusion too. Why? Because of that argument. That argument called deductive argument, the valid one, has a certain nature. Its conclusion is already part of the premise. That is how that argument is. So I've used the orange fruit and its seed to show you how the premise and the conclusion of a valid deduction is. I've used the pregnant woman and the baby inside the tummy to show you the same thing. I've used cash inside an envelope to show you that when you take the envelope containing the cash into your room, don't tell me I took only the envelope. Me, I'm not taking any money. I say, but the money is inside the envelope. You say, yes, I know, but me, I've collected only the envelope. I asked only the pregnant woman to come into my room. I didn't tell her to bring the baby. Hey, Masa, when you called the sister, you didn't see that she was pregnant. Big tummy like that. I know she's pregnant. But I said she should come. I didn't say she should come with the baby. Ah, Massa, do you understand pregnant? That's the problem. See that? When you call me into your room, I'll come with my shadow. Don't tell me why is your shadow following. I didn't call your shadow. But you called me. I am an embodiment of my shadow and I. Okay, if you got all those, that's the relationship between the conclusion and the premises of a valid deduction. So I just showed you deductive argument. And you see on my screen the two examples are there. Only two, so that you learn first, then we can build on the level of difficulty. Only two examples. The first one tells you all students write exams. All students write exams. Amma is a student. Those are the two premises, which is leading me to conclude, therefore, see, what do I say? So she writes exam. The so is the conclusion. Remember, we have learned that. The person is trying to show you why you should accept her claim that Amma writes exam. What's her evidence? He said, oh, all students write exam. And Amma is a student. That's why I'm saying she too should write exam. I'm arguing. I'm presenting reasons why a certain claim. So the reasons plus the claim together is what an argument is. If you were to accept, now people follow me slowly, steadily. If you were to accept that all students write exams, because it may not be true that all students write exams. That point must be clearly made. Some students don't write exams. They just do a defense. PhD students don't write exams. They go and defend what they have written as what a thesis or a dissertation. That's what they do. That's what I did years ago. And I'm called Dr. Miles. I didn't write an exam. Okay, so all students write exams may not, take note, necessarily be true in actual life. Factually speaking, it may not be true. We are not talking truth. We want to test for what? The validity of the argument. And so I told you that we don't say arguments are true or false. No. We ask, are they valid, invalid? Is it strong or weak? Is it cogent? Why? Because validity means if the premises were assumed to be true, the conclusion will necessarily be true also. So if it's a conditional, then if we were to take it to be true that the premises were true, because look at the second premise. Amma is a student. Amma may not be a student or home. Amma may just be the one who assists us at home. Amma may be a fashion designer. Amma may be a lecturer. So if I say all students write exams, it may not necessarily be true out there. We are not saying it is true. We said if it were true that all students write exams, one. And it was also true that Amma is a student, as the second premise. Then, granted that these two premises were true, it will require necessarily that she writes exams, that Amma writes exams, must also be true. Otherwise, if you accept the two premises as true, you don't want to accept the conclusion that comes with it, this conclusion as true. There will be a tension. There will be a contradiction. You will be speaking like the one who says bachelor has beaten his wife. You said he's a bachelor. Now you say he has beaten his own wife. What should we do with you? How would we ever engage with you? There's absurdity all around. There will be contradictions. If we accepted the premises as true and rejected the conclusion that came with it, let's check and see. Suppose it were true that all students write exams. All students. Then we added Amma too is a student. Then what we know about all students must apply to Amma. There's no contention about this. So Amma too will write exams. That is why this reasoning that we just engaged, example 1 is a valid deduction, meaning that the premises, if true, will require that the conclusion to what must also be true. Else what? We create contradiction. Contra, opposite, diction from the word dictionary. So contradiction, opposite language. You create a tension. That's why you can't accept the premises as true and yet reject the conclusion. It has nothing to do with whether it is actually true out there or actually false. To massa. That's deduction. How do you contrast that? We are still referencing what Elvis told us. We are looking at Elvis. Let's picture that so that it will be easy to grab what we are. We are on Elvis. Just show that two ways of argument. After reading argument and the types for us, He read two types, which we are looking at on our screen. He didn't mention deduction and induction. I'm just pointing them to you that the first one is a deed. Conclusion is you took it from the premise. How about the second one? Most Ghanaians are hospitable. My mother is a Ghanaian, therefore she is hospitable. Let's grant it to be true. Again, that most Ghanaians are hospitable. That's what we did with the first one. We took it to be true. We said, let us assume that it were true that most Ghanaians are hospitable. Then we assume also that my mother is a Ghanaian. Am I obliged necessarily, my people in the Lord, to assume to conclude therefore that it means my mother too is hospitable? Look at my premises. Most Ghanaians are hospitable, and my mother is a Ghanaian. Does it therefore mean necessarily, even if we took the two to be true? Remember, it may not be true that most Ghanaians are hospitable. I told you that when we did the first one. May not be true. Maybe most Ghanaians are really not hospitable. You can contend that. But for the sake of argument, let's say that it were true that most Ghanaians are hospitable. My mother may be Ivorian or Nigerian or Cameroonian or South African or American or something. There are 1,001 things my mother may be. So I may be lying when I say my mother is a Ghanaian. But let's grant that also. That's what you do when you are checking the validity. You see, let us take it to be true that all the premises are true, actually, out there. So suppose it were true that most Ghanaians are hospitable and my mother is a Ghanaian. Will it necessarily mean that my mother too must be hospitable? I want your feedbacks so that I see why that one is inductive. Let's hear from you. If I were to assume that most Ghanaians are hospitable and my mother is also a Ghanaian, will I therefore have to necessarily also accept that therefore she is hospitable? Yes or no? Raise up your hand for a reaction. I see 3 hands. Raise it up. Now I see 5. Tell me, am I obliged to? All right. Very good. Hey, 8 hands. Where are the other half of the class? My friends. Ephraim. Ephraim, tell me. Oh, Ephraim, we are listening. Are you having challenges? Jeremy, go ahead. Welcome back. Unmute and respond. I think Ephraim is having challenges with his gadget.
Madam, please, yes, a challenge.
You say we are not obliged,
Hello, madam.
right? Yeah, better. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Are we obliged to? Oh.
Yeah, madam, I said no.
You said no. Oh, okay, I didn't hear you. Sorry, we are not obliged. Thank you so much. So it is possible. Maureen's hand just shot up too. I'm happy to see that. I see quite a number of the hands.
Yes.
Pamela, Abuna, Chris Lab, Elvis, Emmanuel Tewia, Jeremy, Maureen, Oseko. I've not heard from Amina, Antoinette, Christiana, so I'm patiently waiting. I'm sure that Flossie, today I've not spoken. No. Timakom. Yebo. All there. Hey, Sugary Gem. Hey, who is Sugary Gem? Use your official name, okay? Oh, it's your name. I just hope I didn't mess up with your name. If it's your name, Sugary Gem, then you have heard you. Not seen that on my file yet. All right. So just to make the point that see, we may be able to accept the premises. We may choose to say, okay, let's grant it to be true that most Ghanaians are hospitable and my mother is a Ghanaian. It would still not mean that we should conclude, therefore, that she is hospitable. Why? Because she may be part of the few left out from the most. Okay. So if I said most, it doesn't mean all. That is why it's possible for the premises to be true and yet conclusion false and no contradiction be created. Some more examples on your screen now. So example 1, They are all what? Showing you instances of argumentation. The first one, example 3 on your screen, please look at it. Gives you a clue with the word since. Does since take you to premise or conclusion? I want a chorus answer.
Conclusion.
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 Are you sure? I would say since. I had only one correct, or maybe two. And I said since the security must. I had that one. I say
Premises.
don't worry. That's why we are doing mistake.
Premises.
Okay, let's discuss it. See, since the security, you see how I asked for a chorus answer? I was trying to test the atmosphere. Look, since the security man was the last person who left the building yesterday, he stole the project leader's laptop. Since so and so and so and so, he so and so and so. What is the sense telling you? Is it giving you reasons or is telling you the conclusion? I want a chorus answer again.
Reasons.
Giving a reason.
Reason.
The reason is what we call the premise. Very good. So the reason is what we call the premise. I think it was Felicity that got it correct. Let me check because I know the voice. Okay. So I'm just saying that when you hear since, because, if, they are what? Look up. We are going back again. Look at my screen. There it is. They indicate premise. Since, if, given, that, provided indicate premise. They show you the reasons or evidence. Since he was the last person who left the room, I think he stole the laptop. That's the person speaking. The person is telling you he stole the laptop. My reason is he was the last person who left. That's the reason I have to give in support of the claim that he stole the laptop. See that? So that is indicative of the premise. Every registrar, I'm looking at the second one now. Every registrar of UG, University of Ghana, is a member of staff of UG. This is why is the registrar of the Faculty of Humanities. Therefore, she is a member of staff of UG. The therefore, does it lead to the premise or the conclusion? I want a chorus answer again.
Conclusion.
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 Very good. So that one is not in contention. Now that you can tell premise and distinguish it from conclusion. It means in some argument will give you premise, in others will give you conclusion. In others won't give you anything, like the trial question. You can still tell, like your friend beautifully did. He says the others are supporting artists in the song. The lead one is, they didn't say song. I want you to understand that's what I'm saying. Says the others are supporting the main speaker. The others are backing vocalists. Okay, so you can tell what the person is saying and how he's grounding the premises of a justification. Then when you know the premises and the conclusion, then you determine which type of argument it is. Okay, where if you accepted the premises as true, it necessarily means you have already accepted the conclusion, or you must accept the conclusion too. Otherwise, you create a contradiction. That one is a deduction. Then where the premises can be true, can be accepted to be true, and yet it doesn't mean that the conclusion must also be true. You will call that one an induction. Now look on my screen and tell me which one is deductive and which one is inductive. Patiently look at it. Okay. One says bats are mammals and they can fly. So some mammals can fly. Then example 2 says the administrator will arrive on time since she's never been late a day in her life. Example 1 and example 2. Is example 1 I or D? I don't like inductive or deductive. Most of the time people say no, deductive. Deductive. You don't hear the first part. So is it I for inductive or D for deductive? I'm referring to example 1. What does it say? Bats are mammals and they can fly. So some mammals can fly. Tell me, is it inductive or deductive? and why? Let's see some hands shoot up. Very good. Hey, that's impressive. Waiting for some few more. I see 5 hands up. I want more so that I can let someone talk. When you raise your hands here, I make a note too, because I can't call everyone. So I just make a note that this person wanted to respond. But I called only one because you won't know who I'll call. So I presume that if you raise your hand, then you have an answer. See, that is how we do it. So if you are not reacting at all, it's not too good for class participation. Okay, I see Maureen's hand and Michelle. Let me take Michelle. Thank you. As for Felicity, Emmanuel, Teria, Christela, Boatin, Jeremy, I just saw my dear friend Naza's hand just went down again. I don't know. Okay, go ahead, Michelle.
I think the first one is deductive. D.
Is it I or D, my lady?
D.
Okay, very good. That's correct. Let me find out from your colleagues why they will either agree or disagree with you, but I think it's correct. Let me take Pamela Crunchy. Pamela, don't beat me up. What is your reason? You have raised your hand. I just keep tossing you. Forgive me. Go ahead. If you agree with her, why? Why is it deductive? Yeah.
It's deductive because bats are mammals and they can fly. So if some bats are mammals and they can fly, it means then
what?
some if bats are mammals and they can fly, it means some mammals can also fly.
Thank you, Pamela. You see that, Pamela, you see that I repeated the same thing. That's the thing with deduction. If it were true, so that's what Pamela is saying. It's just that you have to go secular somehow. If bats are mammals and they can fly, bats are mammals means all bats. It didn't leave anyone out. So it's a universal generalization. We'll get there later. If all are, then some must be. You see that? It's as simple as so. Bats are mammals means all bats are mammals. And you say all such bats who are mammals can fly. Then obviously there is some. Some is smaller than all. Even all of them can fly. How much more some of them? So if all of them can fly and they are mammals, then it is true that some mammals can fly. Necessarily. There's some, if I say all men are bullies, I didn't leave anybody out. So any brother sitting by me who is a man can slap my face in reaction to what I say. If I say, hey, master, I say all men are bullies. Have I called? Say, am I a woman? I'm speaking about if I say all politicians, if I say all lecturers, all students have done such language is speaking like God. We'll learn it later. Unit 6 and 7. Unit 7. So if you say all are, you have already said some are. I say all women are so and so, then it means some women are so and so, necessarily, because some is a subset of all. So if I say bats are mammals, which Madam just said, if it is true that all bats are mammals and they can fly, then it is necessarily true that some mammals can fly. All can, then some can. That's all. So it's a deduction. It's not a new thing you've said in the conclusion. It's already part of the premise. Well done. How about the second one? The administrator will arrive on time since she's never been late a day in her life. Anybody? I want more hands up. Let me see. The same 4 hands. I want a new hand. All the hands up I've spoken to. Maybe Emmanuel Teria hasn't spoken today, but he speaks a lot in class. Emmanuel, go ahead.
So this is an inductive statement. I.
Very good. It's an inductive argument. Okay, arguments are either inductive or deductive. Statements are not inductive or deductive, but I get your point. Okay, Very good. No problem. So it's inactive, the I one. Well done. Why? Someone help him. Nana Kofi Chere. Very good. I see Antoinette's hand too. Very good. I like that.
It's inductive because it's not based on a premise that was given before conclusion.
Meaning what? Very good. It's a good effort. Someone add to it. Excuse me. Antoinette, please, do you want to add a little bit more to what Nana Kofi said? Why we will say the second one is inductive and not deductive?
Please, I know it's inductive, but I don't really know how to. I mean, yeah, but I don't really know how to explain.
No problem. We are learning. Let me take. Oh, tell me, Lola. Hey, I'm sorry. Tell me, Lolua. Tell me, Lolua. Go ahead.
Kemi Bemila.
Forgive me. I'll just say tell me, okay? Would that help? I say tell me, okay? So I don't specify your name. Go ahead, tell me.
What?
Oh, let Temi talk. My friend, stop disturbing Temi. Temi, go ahead. Shit. Is it network? Temi. Oh dear, let's take someone there. Let's take Abna. Thank you, Abna. Go ahead, Abna.
Yes. Please, I agree with Emmanuel that it is inductive.
Why? Very good. Why?
Because the statement after the main statement does not depend on the reasoning behind the first statement. It has an independent meaning on its own. So it's inductive.
Okay, thank you. Let me see if someone else wants to add something small. Then we can sum it up nicely. I'll give you some assignment on the platform. I'll give it to you on the platform. Maureen, adios. Okay. Why do you Emmanuel is right that the second one is inductive? Please go ahead. Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, the thing is simply this. Let's add that. See, I saw all the hands that shut up. Just check. See, if it were true, it says since she's never been late a day in her life, then the administrator will arrive on time. So the person wants to say the administrator will arrive on time. The only reason is because she has never been late a day, not even one day has she been late in her life. Let's say she's 35 years. She's never been late since she became an adult and started working. No, not in this. Since she came to this company 10 years ago, she has never been late a day in her life. Therefore, the person is saying so she will arrive on time. So the conclusion is that administrator will arrive on time. Her reason, the person speaking's reason is, oh, because that administrator, she's never been late a day in her life. Now, let's take it to be true that, yes, the administrator has never been late in her life. Let's take it to be true. Doesn't necessarily mean, when I accept it to be true, that she's never been late in her life. Will it mean that she will never be late in her life? In other words, she will arrive on time today. Couldn't today be the first time that she's been late? What if, God forbid, she has died yesterday? Can she even be here at all, let alone be here on time? So yesterday must not necessarily be like tomorrow. People don't see that. A critical mind. So even if it were true that she's never been late in her life, which is the reason, a premise being offered, even if that is true, it doesn't necessarily mean, certainly 100% mean that a data will arrive on time today. No, probably yes. There's a high degree of probability that she will be on time because she's not fond of being late. That's a probability matter, but she could be late today. Today could be her first time. She may not even be at work again because she got a new job yesterday, a very good package. She couldn't wait to say bye-bye. She's gone. It could happen today. So the fact that she's never been late before, even if accepted to be true in her life, they say, when she was a baby too, you had it there. All that can be doubted, but let's grant it that it were true, that she's never been late in the past. Doesn't mean tomorrow too, which is she won't be late. That she will never be late today too. No, not necessarily. That's why this one, even if the premises were true, doesn't lead necessarily to the conclusion. And so you will see. Let me just top up with a little small thing. Okay. Wow, then we can end. It's already 3:20. We have up to 4. But when I'm teaching very big concepts like that, things that you need to absorb so much to understand, there's no point adding plenty. Otherwise, next week I'll do the whole job again. You do it a little at a time, and the student practice more. Okay, so let's look at one more small additional concept, then we can end for the day. Soundness and validity of arguments. Someone wants to read for me, please. Thank you all. Okay. John Michael. Hey, no, Pamela beat me. No, John, wait. This time the Pamela must read. Otherwise, there's trouble.
Thank you, madam.
Neza can do the next one. Pamela, read for me. Chancellor's hand is up.
Yes, madam.
Finally. Very good. Let's read. Go ahead.
Soundness and validity of arguments. 1. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. 2. All human beings have fathers. All human beings have feathers. Socrates is a human being, so Socrates has feathers.
Well read. Now let's diagnose. I'm trying to add a little additional quality to soundness. That's what I'm going to do. To validity, I'm sorry. So when an argument is valid, if you're making notes, it's a good time to write it down. If an argument is valid, meaning that its conclusion necessarily follows the premise, like I've explained, the deduction and a valid one. And it means you deduced and you deduced correctly. So if an argument is valid and its premises, there we go, are also true. So you know premise, you know validity, you know conclusion. I'm saying that after you have established that the argument is a valid one, if you are able to tell us that the premises are also true, actually out there, here we are now looking at truth. Whether what we observe out there, true. By observation, factually, what you are saying in the premises are also true. Then we'll say that not only is the argument valid, that's a valid deduction, but it is also what? Sound. So soundness is a higher quality than what? Validity. So in your examples that Madam just read, you see that the first example say, look at the two. They are both valid. All men are mortal, Socrates is a man. Look at the two very well. Tell me which one is valid and sound as well. Raise your hands when you are done. Okay, I see 9 hands. Okay, let's call, who should I call? Mark Ativo, finally. Mark, go ahead. Tell me which one is sound. And so sound will mean that it is already valid and the premises are also true. Go ahead.
The first one is sound.
Very good. Why?
Because all the statements there are true.
Very good, especially the premises. So not
Yes,
only not only is the argument valid because if it were true that all men are mortal, and it was also true that Socrates, whatever Socrates means, we don't care. If it were true that Socrates is a man, then it will follow that Socrates is mortal. This pattern that I've repeated consistently is called modus ponens. It's a pattern of validity. There are several ways of constructing a valid deduction, but I use modus ponens throughout because I'm showing you in an easy way. When you get modus ponens, which we have used so far, all these are that. This thing is a this, therefore it will be a that. That part is modus ponens. We'll learn it later. But you can have modus tollens, so you can have hypothetical syllogism and disjunctive syllogism, a constructive dilemma, and so on and so forth. That's why I told you we are not here to, impress you. You need just something for your how far, something small to check your how far, your reasoning. Okay, so we'll do only 4. But after you have established, like Mark said, that it is valid, a valid deduction, whether modus ponens, validity, tollens, or hypothetical, which we'll learn later. As soon as you know that the premises lead you necessarily to the conclusion, that means it is a valid deduction. Ask yourself, now that it is valid, are my premises also true? So validity is the first thing that must be fulfilled. Then you move on to what? Test whether the premises, the conclusion is not included, it's just the premises are also true, factually speaking. If they are true after the argument was valid, then now you have a higher quality, sound. We call it a sound argument. It's a sound reasoning. So if I said all birds fly, my table is a bird, it has to follow that therefore my table flies. That's valid, but it is not sound because all birds fly. My table is a bird. That statement, my table is a bird, is not true. Factually, tables are not birds in observation. No. So it is valid, but it is not sound. And I hope you get it. Now, that is what is happening in the second example. All human beings have feathers. That will be true. Socrates is a human being. Then it will follow that Socrates has feathers validly, but not sound because the premises are not true. Any questions? If you have questions, raise your hand. I'll take all. I see 3 hands up. Listen, I see 3 hands up. Felicity, is that a question? Please go ahead. Unmute and ask.
Yes, please. Please, the validity, can you kind of go over it a little? I'm not very clear on it.
Okay, no problem. If I say most Ghanaians are hospitable, so let me go back to that slide. Most Ghanaians are hospitable. Hospitable, sorry, on my screen now. My mother is a Ghanaian, therefore she's hospitable. I'm looking at example 2. Let's take it to be true that most Ghanaians are hospitable. Then it is also true that my mother is a Ghanaian. These two, if they were both true, will it necessarily mean that therefore my mother is hospitable? Felicity.
No, not really.
Please, why?
She could also be unhospitable, even though she's
Because
a
of
Ghanaian.
because I said most. Because of the most, so it exempts some people. That is why if you want to conclude therefore that she too, she is hospitable by force because she's Ghanaian, and you said most Ghanaians are. Who ask you a question? If most Ghanaians are hospitable and my mother is a Ghanaian, doesn't necessarily mean that she will be part of them. Because most doesn't mean all. So it is possible for my evidence that I'm giving you to be true, and yet the conclusion doesn't follow. That's why the second example is not valid. It's not a valid deduction. But the first one said, all students write exams. Amma is a student. Then it has to follow that she writes exams. If it were true that all students write exams, and it's also true that Amma is a student, then it will follow that she writes exams. Please, do you understand that?
Yes, please.
Okay, now let me add another one. Suppose I say Felicity is taller than Nancy, and Nancy is taller than Irene. Felicity is taller than Nancy. Nancy is taller than Irene. What conclusion can you draw validly from this premise? If it is true that Felicity is taller than Nancy, and it is also true that Nancy too is taller than Irene, then what valid conclusion can you draw? I'm asking the class now. Felicity is taller than Nancy. Nancy is taller than Irene. Then it means what? Tim, come.
Please, the Miss Felicity is also taller than Irene.
Excellent. We are all talking taller, but we can validly conclude because see, we said A is taller than B, and B2 is taller than C. Then it means A is taller than C. You don't have to tell me that one. When you say the first two, like Tim said, very good, Tim. You are standing outside of the country, then you come here and say, oh, Turkey's thing is more whatever. Let's use something objective. So Turkey is bigger a nation than Syria. It's an example. And Syria too is bigger than Ghana. Then it means Turkey is bigger than Ghana. I don't need to see that. It's the meaning. So if A is taller than B and B is taller than C, it has to mean then that A is taller than C. That is if it were true that A is taller than B, and it was also true that B2 is taller than C, then just these two premises will tell me therefore that A is taller than C. Is the logic of it, the language. Okay, so this is deduction. Deduction is where if you accepted the premises, it necessarily leads you to the conclusion. Then you deduced valid. Okay, that's validity. Whereas for other instances, you can accept the premises as true. Doesn't necessarily mean you must accept the conclusion as true. That would be deduction. I don't know if that helps. Felicity. So practice a bit more with some examples. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Let's take Timmy's question. Then we'll come to Tim and end for the day. Timmy, go ahead.
No, I don't have a question.
Oh, okay. I saw your hand up, so I thought it was a question. Then let me take John Michael's question, if there is one.
Hello, please can you hear me?
I'm sorry, was there a question or to read for me, or you were reacting to my response?
No, it's a question.
The question, please go ahead.
It's regarding the last slide, number 2.
Okay, let me go there. That's like this. Is it this one? I'm going there. This one. Is it the administrator one?
No,
or this?
No, please.
Is it soundness
Yes,
and validity
please,
check? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, please. Please, I wanted to ask, looking at number 2, all human beings have feathers. Are we considering are we looking at it as just a sentence, or we are looking at this practically?
Is it a valid argument? I'm coming. Okay, let me help. Is it a valid argument first? That's the first test. So that one, you look at the relationship between the conclusion and the premises. So if I say all human beings have feathers, Socrates is a human being. If Socrates is a human being, that's the second premise, the second evidence I'm giving you. Then what is true of all human beings in my first premise will apply to him also. Okay, so all human beings have feathers. Socrates is a human being, so Socrates has feathers. This will be valid. Validity means if we took the premises, there are two premises on your screen for question 2. First premise, all human beings have feathers. Second premise, Socrates is a human being. These are two premises, the evidences I'm giving you to support my claim that what? Socrates has feathers. That's the conclusion. So Socrates has feathers. Now the point is, if I accepted the premises as true, for example, 2, we are still on example 2, if I took it to be true, that all human beings have feathers, and I also added that it is true that Socrates is a human being. If I took the 2 to be true, will it mean, therefore, that I have also accepted the conclusion Socrates has feathers? Yes, look at it. If it were true that all human beings have feathers, and it was also true that Socrates is a human being, then it must be true that just like all human beings, Socrates must have feathers. So this is valid. Validity is not looking at whether it is actually true or not. No, it just looks at the connection between the premises and the conclusion. But we just learned soundness. That's a higher quality than validity. What is soundness? After the argument is valid, you don't go and check the premises. If the premises two are true, then it means valid argument plus true premises. True here, we'll be talking about observation-based, factually true. So is it true by observation in our scientific study that all human beings have feathers? That is not true. It didn't even go past the first premise. So this is just valid. The second example on your screen is just valid, but it is not sound. Why? Because even though the conclusion follows directly from the premises, that is, if it were true that the premises, if the premises were true, the conclusion will follow. That is what makes validity. This one is not sound because it's not actually true out there. Is it true that all human beings have feathers? No. So that one makes this unsound. Example 2 is not sound, but both of them are valid. Just that, for example 1, after validity, its premises are also true. By observation, human beings that we are men are mortal, they die. By observation, if one day we observe that men don't die again, then we'll change that. It will no longer be sound. But for now, human beings, men, masculine, men die. Mortality means they die. That's what observation tells us. We just buried Chatu. Hey, why do I keep saying Chatu here? Atu. Okay, we just did his funeral. So human beings die. Socrates is a man. Yes, that's true. Socrates, that's his picture there. He's a Greek philosopher. Okay, therefore Socrates is mortal, just like us. So that's valid. And observation tells us it is true, it's sound. The second one is valid, but all human beings don't have feathers. I don't have one. If you do, but I'm a legitimate human being. Okay, so when we say all human beings have feathers, that is already false by observation. That is what makes this one valid but not sound. I don't know if that helps.
Yes, please. Thank you very much.
Most welcome. You're so done. What I'll put on your platform, on the class platform that we have created, will be an exercise that you will do. I'll ask you to construct argument, determine which ones are inductive and which ones are deductive. And for those that are deductive, make sure that 3 of them are sound and 3 are valid but not sound. Then the other 5 that are inductive. What you call, I think that I should take my time with that, a strong induction versus a weak induction. And where the induction is a strong one, but its premises are all true, we call it what? Strong and true premises, cogency. What we are calling soundness for deduction, we'll call it cogent for induction. We'll build a little bit on that later, but try your hands on it and let me see what you come up with. I'll put that on your platform, but I've given you a gist of it. So you create arguments that are deductive and those that are inductive. The deductive ones, you will tell me which ones are sound. You see that, so it's a valid deduction, but these ones are sound. This one is a valid deduction, but it is not sound. You will do the same for induction, where there is a strong reason to believe that the conclusion is highly probable. For induction, that's what you do. Like the ones I gave you, the one I gave, most Ghanaians are hospital. My mother is a Ghanaian. The chances are high, not a certainty though, right? There's a high probability, granted that these premises were true, that the conclusion was true. Okay, so that would be a strong induction versus a weak induction. Few Ghanaians have done. 2 out of 100 men beat their wives. Actually, therefore, that's a lesser degree of likelihood. So it's a weak induction. Okay, then from there, the one that is strong induction, yet the premises are true out there, you will call it cogent, what you call sound for valid argument, okay, for deductive argument. You call cogent for inductive argument. Then the one that is not cogent will be like the one that you say is unsound for deduction. I'm so done. Abina, what's your question? Your hand is up.
Please, when is the work due?
Excuse me.
Please,
Come
I
again.
want
I
to
didn't
know
hear
when
you.
the
When is
work
the
is
work one?
done.
Oh, don't
Do
worry.
it,
I'll
do
tell
it.
you. I'll tell you when I
Okay.
post it on the platform. Okay?
Thank you.
Look out for it. It will definitely be before the next class. But because I know you do other things, I won't say in 2 days or 3 days. It will be before we meet, God willing, the next Monday. Okay. So look out for it on your platform. Thank you all very much. Jeremy, is there anything to put across quickly? Charles Lane, class rep, is there anything to say quickly? If we are good, then we dissolve the class for today and meet God willing next week. Is there anything? No, please.
No,
Jeremy.
no, please, madam.
All right, that's fine. So God willing, next week when we meet, we do the empirical versus the normative, and then tie it in nicely with the rest of the deduction and induction. Then we are now descending. We'll start descending with the other half. When are we taking our IE? I'll point that out to you later. Thank you so much. Hey, somebody is giving me fans over there. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful. That was John Michael. And take care. Bye for now.